Hi, and welcome to 48 Minutes or Less NBA Podcast, where we talk about the NBA, fantasy basketball, and other basketball-related things. We are Sawyer and Lewis, and if you are looking for insider knowledge on all things basketball, then you may have picked the wrong podcast. We just love talking about basketball and want to share it.
Yeah, we're here to bring you a weekly podcast where we talk about current NBA events and trash talk players that are way better than we are. We are just starting out, so if you like what you hear and we don't sound like complete idiots, please like and subscribe and share. It really helps the channel grow. So, sir, let's talk 2019-2020. What are you most excited about?
I'm excited because it's just a wide open title race. You know, the Warriors aren't really the Warriors anymore, and you know, there's been a lot of people just changing teams and stuff, and so I think it just adds some more excitement to the game itself.
You mean like for the first time we might actually have parity in a long time, whatever that means.
I mean, yeah, whatever parity means. I think the biggest thing is just the fact that I feel like the whole Big Three kind of era in basketball may kind of be over. For now, anyways. I don't think it'll be over forever. Just because it's all about the duos in basketball. You know, Westbrook, Harden, Anthony Davis, LeBron, Kawhi, and Paul George. Yeah, you know, all those duos, man. You know, are there any more duos out there? Actually, I mean,
yeah, you have Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic.
I mean, I suppose so.
I wouldn't really call him like.
I guess would you say like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid?
I call them like a big five. To be
honest, you call the 76ers a big five?
Yeah, I call them a big five.
You call them the Big D? Because of all that defense?
I wouldn't call them a big D.
You wouldn't call them a big D? I would go with the Big D. I think
no,
that's
the big
solid.
Five for me, and it's just like I personally think Al Horford is amazing. So
totally underrated.
And just like calling him a big two doesn't like a disservice to guys like Tobias Harris who can put up points, guys like Al Horford and Josh Richardson who was super underrated in Miami. And last year was pretty much like their go-getter, right? That was like their main guy in Miami.
Yeah. I mean, what would you consider like a superstar duo being exactly? Like, would you say like you can make the argument for like Antetokounmpo? Does he have? Is it Antetokounmpo and the Bucks, or is it like Antetokounmpo and somebody else?
I see it Antetokounmpo and the guy that's on that night. So, like, the first game of the season with the Rockets, it was Brook Lopez's show in the fourth quarter when Antetokounmpo fouled out, right? So, it was like, so some nights it's going to be Chris Middleton, some nights it's going to be...
Yeah, but what I mean is, like, when you say you don't say Harden and the Rockets, you say Harden and Westbrook.
It's Giannis and the Bucks.
It's Giannis and the Bucks.
Yeah, and RJ Barrett
Butler
and the Knicks.
in the Heat, and it's RJ Barrett in the Knicks. It's Zion and the Pelicans. But yeah, you see what I mean? Like, it's not when you think Philadelphia, you don't say Embiid and the 76ers. You more or less would say like Embiid and Simmons together. Like when you think about a team, you think about do you think about two players? When you think of that team, like being like,
is that like
the team?
Is that like what would be considered a duo then? When you think about that team, you think about
I would say that's what you consider that.
So the Nuggets are just Jokic's team.
Right? I would say that the Nuggets would be like Jokic and the Nuggets.
Yeah,
they're not Jokic and Millsap or Jokic and Murray.
I
mean Murray can easily Jamal Murray can easily be that kind of player, but like for example, when the Wizards were better, it was John Wall and Bradley Beal. Yeah. It wasn't John Wall and the Wizards or Bradley Beal and the Wizards. It was John Wall and Bradley Beal. I think like when you get like consistent All-Star appearances and multiple All-Stars on the same team, I guess more or less might be what I would consider more like a superstar duo.
I mean, it's tough. It's just, and it's also the idea that not all duos are created equally, though, because when you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George as one of your duos, and then we're talking about...
You're talking about two great 3-and-D players. One arguably maybe one of the best in Kawhi Leonard being like maybe one of the best defenders in the history of the game.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, talking about this season, I think the thing that gets me the most excited is seeing where the NBA is going with LeBron kind of taking a step back for like the first time in 10 years.
Yeah, is it Antetokounmpo's NBA? Yeah. Is it Leonard's time to shine now?
And then just like seeing all these young guys, especially with the season just starting, seeing guys like Trae Young and Luka have really taken the league by storm. which is completely different than last year because the sophomores last year kind of started out with a slump with Donovan Mitchell. They didn't, and Ben Simmons not really improving very much compared. Although Ben Simmons is like 5 years in the league at this point.
He wasn't a sophomore last year. He was more of he's a junior.
He might win Rookie of the Year this year.
He was redshirted his first year.
But so seeing those guys and then kind of the idea of where the league is heading, and not just so much about like the 3-point shooting, just you want to put that on silent?
Yeah, you should probably too. You should put your phone on silent too.
Mine's already on silent.
Well, fine, screw you then.
It just feels like a brand new league in that sense, not just with the superstar duos, just like, dude, LeBron's might not be the best player in the world anymore. And, like, at least for me, growing up watching basketball, like, that's all I've known was LeBron's league.
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean. And I just... The future, I feel, looks bright for the NBA. And life after LeBron isn't... I don't think it's going to be, like... I don't think it ever... There's never really been, I guess, in a way. Like, there's always somebody kind of take over the mantle in a way. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the direction the NBA is going is really good. I really do think that they're like that parity in the NBA. I feel is actually getting closer to that.
I've been wondering about that parity thing because like people like to complain that it sucked that you knew Golden State was always going to win every year, and it didn't happen because Golden State went to 5 championships and only won 3 times, right? So it's not necessarily that they won every year. Although they probably would have won last year if it wasn't for Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant getting injured. Yeah,
and I think a lot of people can agree with that. You say the same thing with the Cavs, where if Draymond wasn't suspended in Game 6 or Game 5.
Or the first year with the Golden State won, Kyrie and Love were injured, right?
Yeah.
So injuries are part of the sport.
Yeah.
But I just don't know, like, when we're thinking, like, who's going to be the top seed this year and then how many games are they going to win? Are they going to win 54 games? Are we going to have a 60-win team?
I mean, I think in the West, I don't think anybody above, 54. Nobody above 54 wins, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think, like, last year the 8th seed was, the Clippers, and they won 48, right? So maybe the 8th seed this year, I can see them winning closer to 42 because you can say there's 13 teams.
I feel like the bottom of the league, the bottom part of the league, is a little stronger.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a lot of like teams they're gonna 100% lose. Like you're like before the season starts, you're like they are gonna lose. They're gonna be like the worst.
I can rest my star player because my backups can take care of the Phoenix Suns. Right, you don't see that. I mean, even like so far.
For now, anyways. I mean, it just started. There's going to be those teams that are going to still be there.
I mean, the first game, Phoenix put up like what 120, 130 on the Sacramento Kings, right? So they're looking like they'll at least be competitive. So like outside of maybe the Grizzlies, you're looking at 14 teams in the West that are going to be hard fight.
So I mean, speaking of teams like the Suns and the Kings and stuff like that, what rebuilding team do you think has taken such a huge step? Because I'm pretty sure we can agree, like, the Pelicans are kind of rebuilding now. I mean, it's the first year they rebuild, but they're rebuilding, but trying to compete, but rebuilding, really. I mean, the Hawks have been rebuilding now for a couple years. The Suns have been rebuilding forever. Kings have been rebuilding for a while. The Bulls have been rebuilding now for a couple of years. The Wizards, I guess you can kind of call the Wizards rebuilding. I guess they don't really feel they're rebuilding. I guess that kind of depends.
I feel like teams like
Cavs are rebuilding now since LeBron left. Charlotte Hornets.
Teams like, for me, like Charlotte, and like, although Charlotte seems to be thinking about rebuilding, but like for a while, and the Wizards are like, they just haven't accepted their fate that they suck. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They just, like, if you're not.
Well, I feel the Hornets actually kind of feel a little bit of that. Yeah. They actually are starting their younger players as opposed to like vets and stuff playing.
Yeah, but they realized it after they could no longer trade Kemba, right?
Yeah.
And and then did they realize it when they signed Terry Rozier to an awful contract?
I mean, I feel like Terry Rozier is young enough to grow with the players they have. I view it more as if he could be the kind of player they hope him to be when everybody else reaches a point of being pretty good, they
I guess the other point.
Grow into.
I mean, if you're the Charlotte Hornets, you don't really have nothing to lose, right?
Well, I mean, it was a sign and trade they did. To get Terry Rozier. Like that was their only way of acquiring anybody of significance in free agency. They just got a cap space.
So on to your question about, I'd probably say I feel good about the Mavericks, especially if they can stay healthy, because I really like Luka and Porzingis.
I would say the Mavs are like the Wizards. Like, are they rebuilding? Are they not? Like, you don't really kind of know. I guess you feel like they're competing. I would say the Mavs are trying to compete now.
I say they're rebuilding because they're still like,
there's pieces missing.
Yeah, so like they have their two top guys, but they still need to build around them. So is that third guy going to be Dwight Powell? Is it Maxi Kleber?
Is it player to be named later?
Player to be exactly right. Player, I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah, I mean they signed
Delon Wright.
Well, he's not starting though. But they signed Delon Wright, and they still have JJ Barea. I'm not 100% sure on this.
JJ Barea from an Achilles tear.
He's totally gonna come back.
Totally
I believe in him.
Hey. Rudy Gay did it, right?
Yeah.
And Wesley Matthews. And Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I feel like the Mavs are like they have two good players to where they could possibly like start competing, but I feel like they don't really want to compete as much just because they're far away. They're far away. They're not close.
So you don't think if the Mavs can make playoffs, they're not pushing for playoffs?
I feel like if they make the playoffs, it'll be a surprise to most, just because of how stacked the West is. They won't. I believe the Mavs definitely won't make the playoffs.
So because you have 8 teams. So like in my estimation, I'm thinking that like to make playoffs, you gotta at least in the West, you gotta be somewhere within like 43, 44 wins.
At the minimum,
right?
I bet you also have to believe how many other good teams are out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the Lakers, you have the Clippers, you have Houston.
And Utah,
Denver.
Portland seems to always make it.
San Antonio always somehow ends up making it.
Yeah, like no I don't want to say that Portland or San Antonio isn't going to make it because they always seem to make it. Well, San Antonio's like 21 or something.
Yeah,
years
I mean, but San Antonio can easily win 48 games and not make the playoffs. Like it's. I don't think it's going to happen, but I mean, it's anything can happen. Like the NBA, the West is still stacked.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, it's just you don't know. And I feel like the Mavs, they're not with those other teams. They aren't as complete as these other teams are. I mean, we're counting the Lakers as complete because they have Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
Even though
else, I mean,
Porzingis and Luka are good, but they're not to the level of Anthony Davis
and LeBron James. And the supporting players that the Mavs have aren't what the Lakers have. They don't have a Danny Green. They don't really have a Rondo. They don't really have somebody like JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard.
Although I probably like Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber more than Dwight Howard and Rondo, but that's me.
Well, yeah, and they're younger too.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I would call them rebuilding. So I also like the Atlanta Hawks. But
I like what they're doing with their rebuild. I mean, it's kind of like let's purge our entire team and then rebuild kind of a mentality, which you can hate or not hate, depends on how you kind of want to look at it. But I mean, I love John Collins. I like Trae Young too. He plays really well. Kevin Huerter is a good pick. They're a team that I feel is on the rise. Like, I don't see them making the playoffs in the East, but I mean, It's the East.
They got to work on their defense if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like they could easily grow as a team pretty well. The Pelicans, I mean, I think their rebuild kind of got a jump start because of the Anthony Davis trade and by getting Zion Williamson. Because I mean, I think they definitely need some like power forward and center depth. They definitely have a lot of guards. They have too many guards. It's a crowded guard room.
It's way too many guards, and
they're not bad either. Like, they have good guards.
I just don't know especially with Zion getting injured, and then that kind of, I feel like, because right now at this current moment we're recording, they're 0-3, and Ingram's looking pretty good, but I don't know how he's gonna fit in when they do get Zion back.
Yeah.
And then
you almost feel like because it's so crowded in the backcourt, it's taking it's taking Drew Holiday, J.J. Redick, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball. It's taking them time because there's so much room. There's not enough minutes for all of these players. I mean, Drew Holiday's playing small forward.
Yeah, he started small forward.
He's starting small forward. And what the hell is that about?
And he's been having a rough start at that.
Cavs are far away. Bulls, I think they have some solid young players.
So everybody's talking about, because Zach LaVine, before the season started, he was talking about possibly trying to get those mid-range shots and moving them to the 3. And if he could do that, Zach LaVine could potentially be like a 28-point scorer on really good efficiency.
Yeah.
And if the Bulls have that, then I think that could propel them. And then if Lauri Markkanen can take a step forward, considering last year was kind of riddled with injury.
Yeah.
And then
Wendell Carter having a good sophomore year.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, Kobe White is looking really good so far.
Otto Porter is solid.
Yeah, they have.
He's starting off. They have him on men's restriction right now.
I like Thomas Satoransky as off the bench, not so much as starting, which is they're currently starting him right now.
I mean, and I personally like Chris Dunn.
You do, I do.
I like for his defense.
He's a good defender. It's just like point guards that can defend but can't really create anything. They can't really create consistent offense. Like, where do you play them? Like come playoffs, they're not useful, right? You can't really play a player that's that bad on offense.
Not unless you have somebody else to. That's why I thought like having Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn together was a nice balance.
Like if Chris Dunn could eventually get like a 3-point shot or
have a signature.
Yeah, then he could be 3-and-D because he's a really good defender.
Yeah,
but defense can only take you so far. Let's talk about awards and where we think the season's going to go with some of those award predictions, right?
Yeah.
Just a little bit early, I
mean, I think a lot of people have their idea. I mean, it's like LeBron or Giannis again. Maybe even Steph, just because...
For like MVP?
MVP, yeah, for MVP.
So I was running down the list of who I think it is, and Steph, my only problem with Golden State is I don't know if they can win 50 games.
Yeah, like, are they going to win enough games to the point where it would, like, they could conceivably win? He could win the MVP?
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible for somebody like, if Kawhi Leonard ends up continuing the kind of year he's having, he can put his name in the race.
It all depends if Kawhi plays 70 games or more.
Yes.
If he plays 70 games or more, and
if he keeps up what he's doing now, even when Paul George comes back, he can easily.
And the Clippers win 55 games or something, or they're the first or second seed in the West, then he could win it. Giannis is always. He could always win it just because they'll probably have the best record in the entire NBA.
Yeah, I just feel voters a lot of times are never going to give back-to-back MVP awards unless it's like crazy obvious that they should.
Yeah, I mean, if nobody else is like, if the West is just like a madhouse where like your teams are 50 wins and then the Bucks are nearing 60 again, then I feel like maybe and
he's putting up similar or better numbers than when he was last year. Like, can you make the argument?
Yeah, if he's putting up close to 30, 10, and 8 playing Defensive Player of the Year level defense, I mean, you got to give it to Giannis. And if he shoots 34% from 3, at a certain point, and then LeBron, I feel like people always put LeBron, but I don't know, like, I just don't know if LeBron's at that level anymore to give you that type of play in the regular season. In the playoffs, I would still probably give him until otherwise seen probably the best player come playoffs. But at least in the regular season, I'm not sure if he can give you 72 games of.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes I almost hate how the MVP award is kind of not the best player. Mm-hmm. It's more the best player on one of the best teams
for that season.
It's the best player on like the top 4 teams in the NBA for that season. That's how the MVP is kind of voted on, and it's a little unfortunate, but you understand it. You understand why.
Do you think like Jokic could win it?
I honestly don't know. I think if anything, he has a better shot at like a most improved player award.
A most improved. I mean, like, it's gonna be tough.
I know, but I mean, I feel he would win that award before winning MVP. I know it's kind of weird. I know that's kind of weird. I mean, Giannis did it, but I mean, other than that, like, nobody really kind of does that.
It's just because I'm thinking about like people like other, like say Karl Anthony Towns, right?
They're not going to win enough
They're not
games.
going to, because he's going to put up the numbers.
Yeah, but numbers don't mean anything. Numbers mean a lot, but
numbers don't mean anything unless you're putting up a
the biggest number that matters is that W column.
Well, unless you're averaging a triple double, while James Harden got his team to plus 50 wins, right?
Yeah, but I feel it was. Yeah, I mean, Westbrook's team, they still ended up with the 4th or 5th best record in the West.
No. I mean, I thought Westbrook deserved it because that was. Although ever since he's done it 3 times, it's kind of lost his shine a little bit.
Yeah,
but that's most things.
That year was more about the storyline because of Kevin Durant leaving and then him taking over the way he did is kind of how it led to him.
So moving on real quick to another award, Rookie of the Year. Who do you think's? I mean, I was gonna say Zion, but now he's out 6 to 8 weeks.
I mean, I feel like that gives all the other rookies like a 2-month head start. They have 2 months to like shake the rust off before they can really start going, or feel their way in the game. While Zion will be out 2 months and then have another like month or two getting into the feel of the game.
Especially if they're not playing for a couple of weeks.
And at that point, you're already halfway through the season. Like he can easily have a great second half of the year and possibly win the award.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Do you remember, what is it? Is it now 3-4 years ago now that Joel Embiid's rookie season, where he played 32 games, but he was amazing during those 32 games, but they gave it to Malcolm Brogdon?
Yeah, they gave it to that was one of the weakest.
It was between Malcolm Brogdon and Dario Saric or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, and should Joel Embiid have won it?
No, I don't think he should have because there wasn't enough of a resume.
So, like, his Rookie of the Year is it just like, oh, this is the best player for that rookie year, or is it more like an award where you're projecting this is the player that's going to have the best career?
I think it's the rookie who did the best for that whole year round. But if you play 20 games or 30 games when there's 82 games,
yeah, I guess so.
When you have another guy who put up pretty good numbers as well.
But let's say Zion comes in, plays 50 games, puts up 25, 10, and 6 or whatever.
And nobody else does relatively close to that.
Yeah, and 50 games.
Then yeah, I mean, I think he wins it. But I mean, you look at like John Morant or Kobe White or PJ Washington. Like if some of these kind of players who are playing really well in their first year, I mean, even Tyler Hero, if he ends up becoming a superstar kind of player and like he's like this year's Donovan Mitchell or something, like I feel like because they have this step up on him, I feel like that helps them more and hurts Zion.
So who do you think's gonna win it?
I think it'll end up being Zion. I just think I truly believe he'll be the numbers he'll put up and how dominant he will be. I think people will give him Rookie of the Year because of that. I don't see anybody else putting up similar numbers to him.
So far, going into 3 games so far, RJ's looked good. PJ Washington has looked really good. Yeah. Kobe White's looked impressive.
John Morant actually hasn't looked that bad at all.
He hasn't looked bad. I mean, he's not
on a great team either.
Yeah, and he's a rookie point guard starting, having the most responsibilities. Yeah. Rookie point guards are generally not that great. Excuse me. But it's tough. I think that if, say, Zion plays 50 games, I think Zion will take it just because he's such a big name that voters are going to vote for him just because it's Zion.
If Zion puts up 20 and 10,
yeah,
he'll win it.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to put up 20 and 10 numbers.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Like Zion, like the other rookies have a shot, but that's assuming Zion only does like 10 and 10. Does like 10, say Zion does 10 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Other people may have a shot. But if this guy puts up 20, 10, and 5 with like 3 blocks a game or something ridiculous, more like, all right, it's probably going to be like a block and a half a game and like a steal a game. But, if he puts up those kind of numbers, it goes to him.
It really sucks that he got hurt.
I would project that his season is going to end up, his numbers are going to end up something along the lines between 16 to 18 points per game. And I think he's going to hit
let me ask you,
8 to 10 rebounds and about 4 to 6 assists.
Yeah.
1 block, 1 steal. I think those are like reasonable numbers for him, considering he's going to miss. It's going to take him half a year to get into the game.
Now let me ask you another question. If Zion puts up 16 points, do you think people are going to start calling him a bust?
I don't believe so because it depends on. I think if he shoots well, like if you put up 16 points per game, but you're shooting, say 48% from the field as a big man, and like 30, or say not 30, but like 25-30% actually from three, then I could say people may think he's kind of a bust. But I mean, if he puts up numbers where he's shooting like 55-60% from the field, and he's not taking tons of threes, but he's still at least attempting them, and shoots it, say, at like a 35% kind of range, I don't think people can call him a bust if he's only making 16 points per game, assuming he's also getting like 8 to 10 rebounds a game.
No, it's just because you know how people overreact, especially with rookies.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to have LeBron's rookie year. I mean, nobody's going to be like, very few people will be even like Donovan Mitchell in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Or Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. Like,
it's just when you have that kind of hype, people tend to overreact. Especially, and then, like, you know... If
he's hurt, too. He's
hurt, and if he comes back slow, people... And plus, New Orleans... By the time he comes out, New Orleans is going to have some type of offense figured out. And
yeah, they're going to have... They've had now 2 months to play together.
Yeah.
Now they have to reincorporate him.
Yeah.
So it's going to take him some time to get
to incorporate a guy who's supposed to be, like, the focal point of the offense.
And that's why I say, like, he's missing half the year, essentially, yeah. I would say. I'd say it's a pretty reasonable thing to say, roughly half the year. Yeah. I'd say like 30 games before he really starts.
He's out about a quarter, and then
another quarter or so to get back into it. Get the feel of the game. But there was some big rookie extensions. I would consider them big rookie extensions that have happened recently.
So there was, I guess, there's about, 5 that everybody's talking about at the moment?
I'd say 4, more or less. I mean, like Taurean Prince, I guess. Are we talking about it? I mean,
nobody's
talking about it. I mean, I feel it's a decent. It's still an extension, and it's a decent extension for him.
It's 2 years. If it doesn't work out, you're only putting up 2 years.
Yeah, and he's unrestricted after that.
Then he's unrestricted. It's a little bit high, but again, it's
he's a good 3-and-D player, and paying about $14 million a year for a good 3-and-D player. It's worth to take.
He's okay.
Yeah, he's okay.
I think
he's a good 3-and-D player.
He needs to work on his defense. He's not as great. Yeah. People think he's great because he has dreads, and it's like a thing. Whenever a player has dreads, people think that they're better at defense because of Kawhi Leonard.
Okay, all right.
But no, it's like a.
No, but I mean,
Brown. But he has the physical ability to be a good 3-and-D player, and you know it's a little bit under $15 million a year, right? So it's not that bad. And then he hits unrestricted free agency. The Brooklyn Nets can see where they're going with the KD, especially after KD comes back
the way I look at it is KD comes back next year, so then they have one more. They have that next year with Taurean Prince to see if he's worth keeping around. Mm-hmm. If not, well, no harm, no foul on the way. Yes and no foul.
And if he does work out, then you got a wing, and wings are the most important position in basketball.
Yeah. So. But I mean, besides his deal, I mean the 4 bigger deals, I guess. You have Jaylen Brown he's the first Celtics player since 2009, which was Rondo, who as a Celtics player that got a rookie extension.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the last rookie to get an extension by Boston was Rondo in 2009. I mean, it's a 4-year, $107 million extension with about $4 million extra in likely guarantees that incentives, guarantees, whatever that he'll probably get, and then like an $8 million extra on top of that he may not get. It's possible, but very unlikely.
My question with Jaylen Brown is, most people will probably say he's not worth that contract at this very moment. No. Based on what he's shown in his first 3 years, he's not worth that contract. So it kind of becomes the question of, should it have been better for Boston to just let him walk into restricted free agency and then match?
I believe so, but I feel it was more of a. It always looks bad on a lot of some teams. It can kind of look bad on for them not to extend players and to just let restricted free agency play the field. in a way.
It's just, I mean, I guess the other thought process is, like, there's going to be, I mean, the next year's free agency class is pretty weak. Most of the players are going to come out of restricted free agency, so you got...
There's not a lot of cap space next year either.
Yeah, but you got teams like Atlanta that will probably be super happy to offer Jaylen Brown a max contract.
Yeah, and
at least they got him for a little bit under that.
Yeah, and even if they do offer the max, even with the intention of not actually signing him, you're forcing Boston to possibly having to sign him.
I think my thought process is Danny Ainge was playing his hand. Was that Danny Ainge didn't trade for Jimmy Butler. He didn't trade Jaylen Brown for Anthony Davis.
Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis.
Or Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis. So it was like, crap. I didn't trade these guys, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, for these players. I got to look good, so I got to sign him to this big-ass deal.
Yeah, and I believe Jaylen Brown is actually a really good player. It was a crowded roster.
Yeah.
For the Celtics last year.
I think he's a great player. I just don't know if he's worth $28 million a year.
No, but I mean, is Andrew Wiggins worth his contract?
Andrew Wiggins has the worst contract in the NBA.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, people are taking guesses.
But you don't want to Andrew Wiggins be your example.
I know. It's not the greatest example.
You don't want Otto Porter to be your example, right? Otto Porter is a great player that people hate on because he's overpaid, right? So, like, but he's still a good player, right? You don't want Nicholas Batum. I don't want to be talking about Jaylen Brown and being like, man, Jaylen Brown is destroying the Celtics because he's making $12 million more than he's producing out on the court, right? He's playing like an $18 to $16 million player. He can improve, right? But I just don't know. At this very moment, he's not worth $28 million. I mean, everything by the end of next season, he could be in the all-defensive team. He could be scoring 15 points a game, 16 points a game, shooting above league average from three, and he's looking like a $28 million future all-star kind of player.
That's possible.
And that's possible, exactly. At this very moment, he's not. So I don't want to say it was a bad deal until I know more. But at the moment, it wasn't a great deal.
No, yeah, I get what you mean. But I mean, Siakam, I would say his deal is great. I mean, it's the max deal that a rookie can get.
I guess the only issue with Siakam that is the whole thing with Toronto's cap space, where like, oh, should they have signed or should they just waited? So what was his cap hold was like close, was like, because they signed him to a max, right?
I think it all comes down to the optics of it and how it looks for the team. Yeah. And I think it's better if Siakam wanted the deal to get done. Yeah,
and I guess for like Toronto, they had $72 million or close to that in cap space, but then they extended Lowry and they extended Siakam, and now they no longer have max space. But then I guess their thought process was, we can make Siakam happy, and there's no real person that we want. There's no real like intriguing talent out there for next year's free agency class. So make your possible superstar happy, and then just pay him. And I can understand that. Regardless of that, Siakam is worth the max, in my opinion.
I mean, he's shown that he can be.
Yeah. I mean, he's a little on the older side. He's 25, but like, he could be one of those late bloomers that like Victor Oladipo that just like get really good later on in their careers, which he's already shown. So I think that.
I mean, if you look at it this way, Victor Oladipo got a pretty big contract before he was before he was now. Like the contract he
was overpaid and now he's underpaid.
Well, I think he's paid about right.
What is he at? $22 million?
Something around that, but I feel like that's fine. That works.
Yeah, I guess considering he hasn't played in almost a year, but
yeah. But I mean, speaking of the Pacers and everything, Sabonis, his deal, this is pretty much exactly what Miles Turner's was.
I feel like I'm more negative on these contracts than you are.
I mean, I'm all about players getting their money.
I'm all about players getting their money too, but like
you're about if they deserve it.
I'm about the good players getting their money. That's kind of my thought process, because it sucks. Like players should get paid, but like it sucks being a Minnesota fan and knowing that Andrew Wiggins is part of the reason why you guys aren't better.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to as well is that we view them as they are, as we view them differently than how the team views them. The team sees them, works with them. If you put 3-4 years into a guy, and you believe in him, and you think he's gonna do well, and you want him on your team, and you want to keep him around.
Isn't that sometimes the problem though? Because say you have a really bad girlfriend.
Are you saying there's too much heart in the NBA?
There's too much heart, yeah.
There's not enough business. There's too much heart in the NBA.
No, but
I don't think anybody has ever said that.
Okay, say you're a front office and you draft this guy, or you trade Paul George for this guy, right? And you're like, okay, if I let this guy walk or I don't re-sign him, people are going to be like, oh, why did you trade for him? Right? Why did you draft him? And that looks bad on you. So then there's this part of you where it's like, I'm just going to sign him to these contracts so that I don't look bad.
No, I think the Sabonis deal is more like we feel he's a great player and that he's a future of our organization.
For me, if Sabonis can work with Miles Turner, then I think it's a good deal. If they can't work together, as long as they can trade one of the two, then that's fine. I mean, it's not like they paid him $90 million, right? They paid him $77. It's just centers are... You can literally go to a dumpster and find a center nowadays, right? There's hundreds of centers that can give you a double-double. Hassan Whiteside gets traded to Portland. He's putting up 19 and 16, and he couldn't get time in Miami.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose.
Right? Grant, Hassan Whiteside makes a crap ton of money, but that's my only issue. But I mean, I don't hate the deal. That's probably, if it was $90 million, I probably wouldn't like it. But at $77 million,
no, yeah, I feel if it was more than Miles Turner, I feel like that'd be a little much.
Yeah,
but I think it's about exactly what Miles Turner was. I think Miles Turner actually was 75.
Yeah, well, he's a year later, I think, but it's relatively close enough to Miles Turner where, and maybe they both. Maybe they work out. Who knows? Or their minutes get staggered.
And I definitely don't think that is the worst extension. I feel Buddy Hield's extension was the worst. I mean, it was 4 years, $86 million. Some incentives you could definitely hit. I mean, I feel like it's such a big amount for a player that there's no upside. I don't see the upside for Buddy Hield. As opposed, I feel like there's more of an upside with Sabonis and Siakam and Jaylen Brown than Buddy Hield. I feel like out of any of those players, Buddy Hield has the least ability to ascend to a better player.
I mean, he's 48 years old, so
yeah. I mean, I feel like with Buddy Hield, what you see is what you get. There's nothing more.
So I guess the counter argument of that would be he's probably one of the best shooters in the NBA, right? And shooting is a premium, but that's all he is, right? A shooter. A 48-year-old shooter. I don't know if I hate it because you're Sacramento. The deal wouldn't be as bad if they hadn't signed Harrison Barnes to $20 million.
I'll agree. It wouldn't be as bad. I mean, Harrison Barnes' deal though is all front loaded.
And Buddy Hield's is too, right? Buddy Hield's declines. It's declining, which is I guess a good thing to look into, especially when you're a small market team. My thing is. The Bogdanovich or whatever is Bogdanovich. There's Boban and Bojan, right?
Yeah.
Which is the one in Sacramento?
We'll just say Sac Bo, I guess.
Sacramento Bo.
Yeah, there we are.
He's relatively similar skill sets to Buddy Hield, and you could probably pay him $7 million less.
Probably.
That's the only thing that So I'm not sure does he go into restricted free agency? Because he didn't agree to the extension. I think they wanted to pay him $10 million.
No. He's going into, I think, unrestricted. Then.
So I'm not sure where he's going, or if he's unrestricted or restricted. But the point is, is Sacramento going to keep him because they're relatively they have a lot of similar. But I think he's probably a better defender than Beat.
I will say I didn't know this was front loaded, and I think that's good then.
Yeah, front loaded is a little better, especially
front loaded is slightly better. Yeah.
Especially when you think about that you got Bagley and Fox coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, Fox next year and Bagley a year after that.
So I'm thinking about what happens if Sacramento doesn't improve this year? So last year they won 39 games. So what happens if they win 35 this year?
Then I mean I do believe that something has to change or somebody will be gone.
Like,
I feel like the first on the block depends on who plays and how well they play. And they can easily be like, let's run it back again last year. I feel like they overachieved last year.
That's my thing.
And that's going to end up hurting them because they're going to expect to improve again this year. And I think they're actually going to regress.
What, is Luke Walton a better coach than Dave Yeager?
Let me ask you this. Has Luke Walton ever had a winning season?
He did go 24-0 with the Golden State Warriors.
A winning season?
No, he hasn't.
He has not had a winning season.
No, but 39 and what is it? I can't do.
I mean, to be fair, the talent he has is better than most of his Lakers teams that he had, except the LeBron.
He's always like his Lakers teams were always really good defensively, so like that's something to think about. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with Sacramento.
I mean, it used to be like it's the first year of Luke Walton. Let's give it another year.
I would just feel really bad if Sacramento. I don't know if they win last games. It might not be because they're worse. It's just the West is better.
That easily can happen. Like I said, they overachieved last year, and I feel like they're going to regress more this year.
So see, Bagley's out 4 to 6 weeks now as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I'm still kind of like.
They don't have Willie Cauley-Stein anymore.
Yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence with Bagley. As a player, like I like him, but I'm not sure if he's like a guy that gives you 20 and 10, but doesn't win you basketball games.
How much do you believe the Suns and the Kings regret not taking Luka Doncic?
Oh, 100%.
100%.
But I thought, didn't Luka said that if he got drafted by the Kings, he was gonna play in Europe?
Yeah, that was the rumor that was going around. I mean, it's still possible that would.
The thing is, Luka and Trey, and then you have JJJ, who, I mean, I don't know if he's worse. Then he's a way better defender than Bagley and Ayton, but they're better offensively than he is.
I don't know. I mean,
I guess yeah, but Doncic is like you can play him on the wing. Could you imagine Doncic with Hield?
That'd be amazing.
I mean, with Fox.
Oh yeah, like
that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of up in the air. I feel for me when it comes to a lot of these rookie extensions. I mean, we could look at it any way we want, but you know, it's not our money. You know, it's their money. They're choosing to spend it this way.
I wish it was my money.
I will say this though: the way the NBA contracts is done is, in my opinion, better than how the NFL does it. For example, in the NFL, it's more of next man up kind of mentality, and even if you don't deserve to be paid as the most because your contract is up now, you get the most. While the NBA does it more along the lines of you can't get more than this percentage of the salary.
Yeah.
But to be fair,
and
it's a completely different sport, and there are way more players in the NFL, and it's a whole. It's
the
a
good thing with the NBA is like, yeah, I might make $25 million next year. You get paid 28, but it's 25% or whatever percent of the cap.
Yeah.
I mean the main issue with the cap. At least with the way players are played, I think it's just the way GMs and teams kind of look and predict the value of players. If you're Nicholas Batum and they're offering you like $24 million a year, right? You're gonna take it. You're not gonna say no to that, right? So it's on the teams and how they predict how this player is gonna be moving forward, and then deciding, hey, this player is worth this, and and that's something that is on the team side, and then how they can use, I don't know, whatever means they have to kind of get better at predicting which players are going to be worth their contracts and whether that player should be paid so much.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, and the other part is small market teams have to overpay players to keep them, to bring them in.
Yeah, and the whole idea about, like, if somebody doesn't pay him, if I don't pay him, somebody will.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of mentality.
But that's what, like, I'm always on the whole, like, restricted free agency kind of thing, where like, say, I mean, this player technically you can match any salary, so if you're not sure how much they're worth, send them out to the market and see what how the market values them, and how other GMs in the league markets them. But then my only issue with that is then you run into like the Otto Porter situation, where Brooklyn offers him a max contract, and then if you're in Washington, you either have to let him go or match, and then you end up overpaying him. Granted, the contract looks a lot worse because of what happened with Washington. Thanks for listening. It's our first podcast, so we're trying to figure this thing out. Hopefully, you guys come back. We'll get some more structure, kind of keep figuring out where we want to go with this thing. So, thanks for listening.
Yeah, and this is kind of how the flow of the podcast ideally might go. Just kind of us just talking. And,
yeah.
We hope you guys like, subscribe, and share.